Hello boys and girls. I'm going to demonstrate the law of reflection lab right now, and it will be your job to come up with a hypothesis and a procedure for this activity, as well as answer some questions in the conclusion. So the problem is going to be, what rule can you make that describes how light reflects off a mirror? I will give that to you, and it will be your job to come up with a hypothesis using the format if, then, because. Okay? You'll be watching this demonstration, and then you will be able to come up with a hypothesis. You're also going to, in addition to coming up with the procedures, you're going to have to tell me some of the variables. So there's 3 variables: manipulated, responding, and controlled. So these are the materials that we are going to be needing, we're going to be using. So you have to make sure you mention all of these in your procedure. There's going to be a pencil, and the pencil is important because we're writing the, not writing the lab up, but we're going to be creating some images using a pencil. So that's going to be very important. We're going to be using a sheet of paper, which we're going to be putting our images on, a ruler, like so, a protractor to measure angles, a plane mirror, and a PET laser. Okay, so we're about to start. I'm going to hand off the camera to my video recorder here, and I'm going to start the experiment. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is create a ray diagram or an image that we can put our ray diagrams on. So we're going to start this by just drawing a straight line that's going to represent our mirror, and we're going to label it mirror or plane mirror. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do is make a perpendicular line, or a line perpendicular to this mirror. This is very, very important. So this line perpendicular to the mirror, I'm going to put a tick right there, a tick down here, and we're going to connect the 2 lines. We're going to call this the normal. Okay? So once we have this, we have it all labeled, we have the plane mirror, we have the label, we're going to take our mirror, and place it right where the spot for the mirror is. I'm going to have my assistant hold the mirror up. Okay? And as you can see, we're going to take our laser. I'm going to shine it onto the mirror. I'm going to shine it onto the mirror. And you can see there's an incoming ray and an outcoming ray. Okay? And I've already done this a few times, so I've had some perfect, not perfect, but some really good ray diagrams that I drew. So you're going to aim the ray right at the point where the normal and the mirror meet. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shine the line. And this is where it comes in handy to have partners. I'm going to draw the line. I'm going to put a tick right here at the point, and right over here, and then another tick right here and right here. Okay? Once that's done, we can remove the mirror. And at this point, we just need to connect the rays. So this was the incoming ray. So that was the incident ray. We're going to connect the dots like so. And this was the reflected ray. And this is the reflected ray. Oops. So we draw the lines and they're labeled. Now what we need to do is measure the angle. And remember, the angle is simply measured from the normal. So the incident ray and the normal ray. So I take my protractor. I'm going to measure my incident ray first. Or sorry, my angle of incidence first. And I line this up. I take a look, and oh, it was almost Oh, it is. It's 45 degrees. So I label it 45 degrees. And the angle of incidence, I put the little, looks like a L symbol, which represents angle, and the I is for the angle of incidence. That's 45 degrees. And we know the law of reflection says that the angle of incidence should equal the angle of reflection. And we see here, it equals the angle of reflection equals 50 degrees. So that tells me I'm a terrible scientist. That does not tell me that I'm a terrible scientist. Very rarely do I ever get these correct. This is actually perfect results, okay? And then from here, okay, we have to repeat this 3 more times. I'm gonna flip over this, or I'm gonna show the samples that I'm giving you guys on the lab, and these are the 3 samples that you're going to have. You're going to see that we have an angle of incidence of 59 on the first sample, and then an angle of reflection of 49 degrees. Well, we know the law of reflection says the angle of incidence must equal the angle of reflection, and that is true 100% of the time because it's a law, okay? So there has to be a reason why this was not correct. But that's perfectly fine. You guys are gonna tell me some of these reasons possibly at the end based on my observations that I put on the lab. But then on my second try, you'll take a look that I went and I made the incident ray a lot steeper, and we ended up by having an angle of incidence of 22 degrees. So the angle of incidence went down, or it decreased from 59 to 22, but we can also see over here my reflected angle went from 49 to 36. So as the angle of incidence decreased, the angle of reflection decreased. And then I decided to make it a little steeper on trial number 3. So I went from 22 to 37, and again, the angle of incidence is bigger, and as we'd expect, the angle of reflection got bigger. So what you guys are going to have to give me is, I'm going to show you my computer here. I've typed up the lab for you, and I've highlighted a bunch of stuff in yellow. Your job is going to be to finish off all the materials that are in yellow, okay? So we're gonna go all the way to the beginning. I start with the title page. All you have to do is put your name and your class. So we're gonna say grade 8 Potvin, 8 o'clock, or period 1, grade 8 Potvin period 2, and then grade 8 Rennie. Then you're gonna have to do your hypothesis, the procedure. You're gonna have to write up the procedure in such a way that if you were to go and give all of the materials and the procedure to somebody that had no clue what they were supposed to be doing, they would be able to do that, be able to conduct the lab. Then you have to give me the manipulated variable, so the variables that were changing the experiment, the responding variable, the variable that changes because we changed the manipulated variable, and finally the controlled variables. Observations, I gave you some observations that I made, not on this recording, but prior to this. And then the ray diagrams, I've attached them at the end of this lab. I've done the analysis for you, and I've done the first part of the conclusion, but you're gonna have to tell me what the law of reflection is, and you're gonna have to tell me some of the reasons my results were not perfect based on the short video that you've seen. You're gonna have to tell me what you'd like to change in this lab, and you're gonna have to tell me how this lab helps us in our daily lives, how the law of reflection helps us in our daily lives. Okay, so that is it, boys and girls. This will be a major assignment, and it will be due next Wednesday. If you have any questions, please email me. Thank you very much.